hold on. Recording.
All right.
Good. I'd like to call to order the Town of Fraser Board of Trustees meeting Wednesday, August 5th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Adam Quickland.
Peggy Smith.
Julie White.
Louis Gregory.
Katie Souls.
And Brian Cirkvenik. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, which includes the minutes for July 22nd, 2026, and Resolution 2026-0801, approving revocable license agreement with Rendezvous Community Association.
So moved. I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, we are moving on to open forum. This is for business not on the agenda. Anyone in the room that would like to approach the board to talk about a topic that is not on the agenda, feel free to approach the podium, or if you're online, raise your hand. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 2026-0805, accepting the resignation of a trustee and filling the vacancy. Antoinette.
Mayor, Board, and Trustees, Antoinette McVeigh, Town Clerk. So tonight we're entertaining a resolution 2026-0805 to fill the vacancy from the resignation of Katie Fisher. And the board, so Katie Fisher resigned on July 15th, 2026, and that was effective the same date that she resigned. And the statutes do allow the Board of Trustees to appoint somebody. Colorado Revised Statutes 31-4-3031. Board of Trustees has a power by appointment to fill vacancies in the board or any other office, and the person so appointed shall hold this office until the next regular election or until his successor is elected. Our next regular election is November 3rd, 2026. The board also has the power to fill the vacancy in the board and any other elective office of the town by ordering an election to fill the vacancy until the next regular election or until the successor has been elected and has complied with the section CRS 34-4401. So this resolution officially accepts the resignation of Katie Fisher. And in your packet, we only received one application, which was Kenneth Jensen. He is here this evening if you guys would like to ask him any questions before considering who you would like to appoint to the board this evening.
I guess I'm not going to sneeze. All right. All right. Well, great. I think it would be great to hear from Ken a little bit. If you want to tell about yourself.
Introduce yourself to the community.
Good evening. I'm excited to be on board, and I think I can bring a lot of experience. I grew up in a small town in Montana, so I'm used to the small town atmosphere and helping out communities, and former business owner, former banker, kind of a finance guy. So I think I can be a good addition to you guys.
Great. You guys have questions?
Tell us about everyone who's listening, your current involvement within the Fraser Valley community.
So I am the vice chair in the Fraser River Housing Partnership, Fraser River Valley Housing Partnership. It's always a mouthful. Been with them since its inception, and been working on obviously supporting St. Louis Landing, News Village, Habitat for Humanity development that's going to take place up in Granby. Very interested in making sure that we do have what I call attainable housing in this county. And we are currently undergoing a housing assessment for the whole county. And we're gonna try to get more data on what is really needed in this county. And so I've been involved in that. I'm also involved in an impact fund with Grand Foundation. And I've enjoyed being involved in that. And then outside of that, just been currently retired, working on my house. I just finished a huge project, mitigate my whole yard, which is about 1.5 acres. So I just finished that yesterday. So this is
All
good
right.
time.
Congratulations.
That's great.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Any other questions?
No. Thanks, Ken.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Ken to the board.
Well, we have an official resolution on the table.
2026-0805, accepting. That was the resolution,
Yeah, so it both accepts the resignation of Katie Fisher, and then there's a blank that says the board appoints.
okay, and filling the vacancy with Ken Jensen.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Bye.
Any opposed? All right. Welcome, Ken.
Hey,
All right, thank you.
I think we're
Cool
gonna
to see.
swear you in right now.
yay.
Ken, if you want.
Oh, I told him, I told him to slow down.
We're official. Would you like to raise your hand or put your arm over your heart? And just repeat after me. I, Kenneth Jensen,
I, Kenneth Jensen,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I'll support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Colorado,
and the state of Colorado,
the Fraser Town Code,
the Fraser Town Code,
and faithfully perform the duties of the office
and faithfully perform the duties of the office
of Fraser Town Trustee upon which I am about to enter.
of Fraser Town Trustee, of which I am about to
Enter.
enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, somebody's-
Yeah. Oh, I think it's Matt Ginsburg. No, it's just
The name.
kind of freaking out.
I'm sorry. Annie Ginsburg, could you please stop raising your hand and putting it down? Thank you.
It's probably a cat on the keyboard.
Fine.
Okay, moving on to resolution 2026-0802, approving Grandkids Learning Center lease for St. Louis Landing Early Childhood Education Center. Sarah.
Good evening, board. Sarah Catanzarite, town manager. So before we jump into the lease, we do have grandkids with us to give just kind of an update on what's been going on with their organization. They've also put together their budget with their actuals and kind of their projected budget for the build out of St. Louis Landing. So we're going to walk through that. The board's welcome to ask them any questions, and then we can go through the terms of the lease. If the board is comfortable with the lease as is, or there's kind of minor revisions, we can make those and approve them. If we need to bring the lease back after further discussion, we can do that as well. But I would like to invite Anya Kliss, who is the new executive director of Grandkids, and her team to go ahead and kind of let you know what's been going on with Grandkids.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah, come on up.
And I'll just throw in as well before I get started that we also have Megan Ledeen with us this evening, who's been working with Grandkids and has come to just kind of answer any questions she might be able to.
Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for having us here today. My name is Anya Kliss. I'm the executive director of Grandkids Learning Center as of February this year. A little history about myself with the organization. I've been with Grandkids since 2020. Started out as an assistant teacher, stepped into the site director role. Not too long after that, worked in that role for about 5.5 years or so. And then am now the executive director and excited to be sharing where we're at within the organization and where we hope to go. I won't read you our little one pager. It was in your packet. Hopefully you had a chance to review that, but a little bit about where we are at right now. We operate out of 3 locations. The red building, which you're familiar with, I'm sure you hear the kids running and screaming each and every day. We operate out of Wapiti Meadows complex building that houses 3 classrooms. And then our most recent addition is our Granby location, which opened in February of 2024. Across the board, we currently have capacity for 96 licensed childcare spots. We are currently serving 64 local families. Our capacity can serve 16 infants, 16 toddlers, 19 older toddlers. We call them junior preschoolers. That's that 2-year-old age group, and then 42 preschool age children. Our board of directors, which I have 2 of them here with me today, Bethany Lashley, our treasurer, and Rebecca Rudell, our board president. Our board has really prioritized staff retention. Several years ago, that was a huge detriment to the organization. We were having to close classrooms, really struggling to stay afloat. At one point, we weren't sure if we were going to have to close a whole building. So the board realized that was going to be their ultimate priority, shifted the focus there to sustainability, and since then have kind of made it through each school year with an 85% staff retention rate, which in the early childhood field, that's pretty huge. I would say that retention rate is a little bit higher with those in leadership roles as well. And right now we're averaging at about 30 to 35 full-time employees. Right now we hold on Eastern Grand County 100% of community-based infant slots. 35% of our families qualify for income-based tuition assistance, but 51% of our families are receiving tuition discounts from state programs and then internal scholarships too. That's a little bit about where our organization is at. And we are hoping that we can move into St. Louis Landing to continue to serve the greater Grand County community, especially in the Fraser, Winter Park, Tabernash area. We think that's going to be where childcare is currently really needed. That would not only double our license capacity in our Fraser educational campus, but it would also bring about 15 new teaching positions available in the community, and gives us opportunities for school age summer programs, opportunities for after school care for local families. It really opens the door for grandkids.
That's great. So thank you.
Bethany, did you want to walk through some of the numbers?
So Bethany Lashley, treasurer, been on the board for 2 years now, heading into 3. We have worked a ton on our budget recently. So for those of you, it was about a year ago that saw what we were looking at. A lot of negative numbers, some questioning of grants and how we were presenting those revenues and those income streams. So if you looked at this packet, you may have been surprised to see our positive numbers that were coming up. And a big part of that was thanks to Anya and our staff as she came on board, going through our expenses, really tightening some things up for us, renegotiating some contracts with some of the members in the community. Great things that have happened, including a new roof on our red building. If you guys have seen that, that has been amazing. Roofing company,
Yes.
right? Roofing company donated that to us. And so
Wow.
our team has really been strong at reaching out more now and getting that community involvement, which has been great. The other part of that was going through and really looking at what our grants looked like over the last 3 years and trying to put that commitment to paper. So we were always very conservative before, worried about, will that money really come in, being that it's a grant? And now we've really taken that focus of, yes, here's what we have gotten, here's what's been committed to us. And then also realizing that that could fluctuate within the county over the next year, and us being able to keep a better finger on where those pools of money are and shift if we need to. So we're starting at a base of 350,000 that we are willing as an organization to work on getting for grants to help offset that tuition that's coming in. And with that, we're looking at starting a positive cash flow. And we also think that's realistic. This is a lot of time and effort we've put into this, and we think that's great. So if you looked at our budget to actuals, you can see that starting to happen already and see that we're up at 250,000 a little more that we have already secured this year, which has been wonderful. So part of that's Town of Fraser as well. So thank you guys. Going into our budget, so this was in your packet. So our projections for 2027, when we would enter St. Louis Landing, up through 2032. You can see overall for our facilities, we have been able to get into a positive role with those. This includes our teachers being at a salary that we are comfortable with, that it's actually getting them to that livable wage. I know we have a teacher stipend, which I don't remember that exact name, that's coming in that will actually help us get there as well, but we're able to calculate those payroll and those benefits, still coming in at about 85% of our total expenses. But our teachers will be where we want them. So again, if you remember our previous budgets, we had where we were at and also where we wanted to be. And there was a huge disconnect in getting our teachers where they wanted to be. And now we are there, which is very exciting. I also did a breakout here for St. Louis Landing itself, because I know that was really important for you guys to see the impact of just that building on grandkids as a whole. Some of the numbers, like our tuition, are solid numbers that would be coming in. Some of them are a percentage base of income that's coming in. So some of our expenses, how we have them broken out, is based on the income that St. Louis Landing would be bringing in versus the whole organization. So those were our assumptions there to try and get us to the correct number. You can see obviously 2027 and 2028 is a little bit lower, but that's as we're transitioning, as we're getting into the building. That accounts for us having a lease still over in Wapiti that we're then going to have to get out of, and we will do our best to minimize that cost once we know exactly when we're in that building. But all of that is accounted for and actually under this budget for St. Louis Landing. So you can see that effect. Scaling, as we scale up through the kids, you can see that we are actually doing better. I know that was another big question previously, is as we scale up and get more kids, are we financially doing better or worse? And reflected in here, we are doing significantly better, which is great as well. Another assumption under there was the rent for the building, which I know this will come up with you guys. So that first 3 years, we did account for that $1,000 a year rent. But then I scaled it up to $24,000 a year starting in 2030. So we are looking at being able to accommodate more rent and looking at that expense and still doing well. All right. Anything else at the moment?
Yeah, hey, I was just curious, what do you pay for rent currently?
Hold on, you might have it off the top of your head. If not, I can.
Monthly, we have been paying about 3,200.
And this is just that what
Just that
correct.
Yeah, just here in Fraser, right?
Yeah. However, it did increase, or it will increase, for August.
Now, is this at over at Wapiti?
That is correct.
Yeah.
So it averages about 36,000 annually.
36,000. And your expenses, I don't see a separate line item for rent. You just have it all bunched together under operating expenses.
Just for the summary, I think that's how that's presented, but we definitely have it broken out within our expenses and financials. So if we need to do further breakdowns, happy to.
Yeah.
And I guess that's another point we haven't made too, is financial transparency across all of this. We're working on getting reviewed statements, you know, for 2025 and being able to produce these for you as needed, right out of our QuickBooks program. Like, here's our actual, here's our budget, and being able to give you guys that transparency that you need on an ongoing basis. And so whether that review is quarterly, annually, whatever it is that we decide within the lease and the
Yeah.
perspective.
No, this is much better than last year, and appreciate you filling in some of the blanks. We obviously want you to be successful, so see the numbers and making sure that you're financially viable, right?
Absolutely.
Yay.
Yeah. You can see the jump from 2029 to 2030. um, in that operating expenses for the St. Louis Landing specifically. So yeah, it's not broken out in this, but it's obviously accounted for.
Well, and the other issue is around the build out. So you're spending a lot of money in 2027 on building out the facility. And then in 2028, there are no revenues coming. I assume you're gonna still get grants and be able to supplement that.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you know,
goal.
if you did the fill.
And Louis, they do, correct me if I misstate this, they do have their build out right now separated out from their larger budget. So if you scroll down to the last page, that's a budget specific to their build out.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, great.
But it's a negative number. They have a gap there that you need to fill.
Yes. Yep. And we'll be talking about that in a minute here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
So also in your packet is a staff briefing and then a draft lease that we've worked on with grandkids. And then a resolution if you wanted to move forward with approving that lease. As we previously talked about, the way it's currently presented, it would be starting out at $1,000 per year. We've written it as a 15-year term, but there is the option to exit that lease early if need be. It is written such that the rent would not remain fixed and every 3 years could be revisited by the board and could be raised or decreased at the discretion of the board. Obviously, grandkids would have the opportunity to negotiate that and decide if they wanted to stay with the lease or not. We wanted to have some guardrails in there, not knowing what the future holds, but wanting some protections for grandkids. And so right now it is listed that that maximum rent rate would not exceed 24,000 per year. Both that starting lease and that maximum lease rate is something that the board can discuss. But those are the starting points that are included in the current draft. I looked at a number of leases by other communities and tried to build in some of the safeguards that they had when they had leases with early childhood education facilities. So there is some reporting requirements and just kind of ground rules around communication to make sure that town staff and the board are not micromanaging their operations and allowing them to do their daily operations, but that we are in the loop and making sure that they are keeping up with all of their licensing standards, quality care. If there is any incidences where the state would need to be involved, that they would have to notify us. So we'd have that heads up. It does require them to pay kind of their general utility cost, insurance costs, things like that. We'll talk in a minute here about that build out and if the board wants to support that through the new market tax credits and some of those funds that are coming in, but they are ultimately responsible for that build out and ongoing maintenance. I think those are a lot of kind of the key terms, but I'm happy to talk through any other aspects of the lease or any questions that the board might have.
Did you get the insurance requirements kind of from these other leases?
Yeah, we kind of started with the standard commercial lease and then the pieces that I pulled from other town leases have more to do with the specifics of a childcare center operating there. The other piece we talked about as well is if grandkids did want to allow somebody else to use that space for something outside of standard kind of grandkids operations, that they would request permission from the town for that. And we could look at that if that was anything where somebody was being, charged to provide additional childcare services outside of grandkids' daily operations.
So we allow them to sublease the space?
They would have to request our permission.
So relative to the lease, basically grandkids has a 60-day out of the lease at any time.
The way it is currently written, it is that both grandkids in the town may terminate the lease before expiration by providing the required notice. And so, yeah, it is 60 days. But again, that is something that we could change if we wanted to.
What is their current out. They have to pay, what is it, through 2027? They stuck in their lease for another year?
15 years.
At WPD. Yeah.
Oh.
Until the end of July of 2027.
So you're on the hook for $36,000 for next year?
Yeah, it's built into our budget.
Well, and the hope is that they can get some early access once we have a temporary CO for that space and hopefully get in there roughly by the end of the year to start doing some of that grandkids build out and working on licensing requirements because that will take a while. The earliest we're anticipating them moving in to actually operate would be March. And so really it's the months of March through July or August that they'd have that overlap.
I mean, the only other question I have, and we talked about this before, is, I don't think the town of Fraser should be subsidizing the bulk of childcare in the community or in the valley without other people, paying their fair share. And I don't know how you apportion that. Winter Park's kicking in $40,000, right? Granby 8, Grand Lake 6, but I don't know. We're providing space for $1,000 a year, which is that's a lot. I mean, that's almost probably 40,000 there, and we're kicking in another 30,000. Are we subsidizing childcare for the rest of the valley? And I don't know how you discern that, but that would be the only other thing I would want us to think through is like, should we be charging these other, municipalities or the county for subsidizing childcare?
So I'm going to let Megan jump up because I see her jumping up. I was going to add this childcare stipend program that Winter Park has worked with Megan to put together. Winter Park and the county are putting in larger amounts, and we are putting in a smaller amount in part in recognition of the fact that we are contributing so much through that building and that lease. But I think that is a fair question.
Absolutely. Megan Ladine, Director of the Grand Foundation. Thank you for letting me, I guess, give input, context. Multiple funding areas in childcare right now. The 1A Community Priorities Fund, our priority, every pun intended, last year and this year is childcare. And so that is an eligible grant opportunity for grandkids to apply to as well. The first round fall of 2025, they received an $87,000 grant. And this last spring cycle, they received $45,110, I think is what you had. And that was for a new van because they don't have a van over at the Granby location. With that being said, the Grand County Child Care Strategic Investment Fund, that's a mouthful. Let me talk about that. That's going to be for teacher retention. So it's actually starting right now. I'm just waiting, a signature on the MOU from all the funding partners, but just waiting for that. And then we'll be looking at the second quarter. So we're going to go retroactively, look at the second quarter of all the staff that has spent more than 60% of their time in the classroom and give a grant to grandkids and other childcare entities that are nonprofits only. That money is going to be coming from the county. County is $100,000. Town of Winter Park is $100,000. Grand Foundation's put in $50,000, and you guys voted last month to put in $25,000. So, but with that being said, as you alluded to, you're doing your share and then some. So there are other opportunities along with all the block grants that the towns do provide, as well as Grand Foundation dollars that grandkids can apply to. And childcare is one of those very myopic priorities, not only with the Grand Foundation, but with all the municipalities and the county. So there are other dollars that will be coming in to grandkids as an entity. And then I just want to add that they have done a tremendous job with their financials. You guys, my background is finance, and I can tell you all the things they've done is just amazing. And I really want you to know that.
Atta girls, atta
I
girls.
can see this. This is much better than what we saw before, but you were all very supportive of childcare. At least I am. It's a central priority for us. But again, I don't think we want to subsidize the county necessarily, and I don't know if you can break down, where people live, the ones that you're, that are in childcare now, where they're coming from. Are the bulk of them from Fraser or, county or where? I mean, what are we?
I could not stand up here and give you those numbers, honestly. I know I could look at Grand Beginnings and the data that they've put together and come back to you with that. They've been instrumental throughout all the processes of the funding mechanisms as well as with grandkids as well. I do know that people travel from all over to bring their kids to the open slots, that the waiting lists are quite large. And so there are kids or children, excuse me, I'm not supposed to call them kids, children from Grand Lake, Granby that are attending grandkids as well. So I can come back to you with those numbers, but I would say that, Winter Park and Fraser and Tabernash have a lot of children. And the EEC right now is just for Winter Park employees. And so majority between the red building, I guess you call it, I almost called it the Learning Center.
Red School. Yes.
And over at Wapiti, that's going to be holding a majority of a lot of the kids around here.
I mean, it's a little bit akin to our discussion around the bus service, and I think we feel like everybody should pay their fair share. We don't want to, be on the hook to subsidize. Anyway.
Well, when you
Well,
look at that build out and you look at the projected loss, 198,000, I think is what I saw. And, that's where there are other granting opportunities that other entities can kick in, right? To help with the build outs and those type of things. Or if there's other opportunities there's additional grant dollars that grandkids can apply for. So I think monies are going to come from other avenues for other things to keep them sustainable. And over time, whatever the town decides to do, it's a worthwhile investment. Not that you don't know this, I know you all know this, for your residents, for your employees and everything.
And I do think we need to also be cognizant of there's a lot of employees that are at this end of the valley that would love to live in Fraser but can't afford it. But they work here, they spend their money here. And so it's all part of the community.
I'll add as well, I know Granby Playdates is in a building that's owned by the town of Fraser, and I believe they pay a minuscule amount in rent.
I do believe they pay about $10 a year. I don't know if it changed for 2026, but I know that was 2025 number.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's serving a much smaller number of kids than St. Louis Landing is. The Early Childhood Education Center at the resort is obviously subsidized heavily by the resort. Eternal Hills preschool program is subsidized by the church. So most of the buildings in the county, and I don't think this is uncommon, are receiving some level of subsidy from either the municipality or another
And
entity.
the West Grand School District subsidizes the space for the West Grand Early Childhood Center as well as Kremling Preschool too. 'Cause
Correct,
they're
yeah.
located in their schools.
There are also Fraser or Winter Park things that occupy, that their children are enrolled in the Grandkids Learning Center space because there's no space in Fraser.
There you have it.
So we also have people go the other way just to get that childcare.
I'm a little less concerned about the residency of the child and more concerned about the income and the subsidy of the parents. And it sounds like you guys have turned a corner on that where, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it used to be a fully subsidized program across the board, and now it's income based, or?
Are you talking tuition assistance?
Tuition, yes.
That to speak to that, but the tuition assistance program is run out of Grand Beginnings. And then it's based on enrollment, I believe, per location. And then each entity looks at applications based, and we have a spreadsheet formulas based on that income levels. Because some will apply or be eligible for UPK dollars, universal pre-K dollars. Some will be eligible for CCAP
There's
dollars,
different
and then
pools.
I think it goes up to 500 of federal poverty level, 500%. Yeah, so
That's great.
I do know that that's going to be a focus in the future for the Grand County Child Care Strategic Investment Fund.
It was a topic in there.
That
yeah.
We left
And-
it pretty ambiguous. Right now, we're just focusing on teacher retention, but know that tuition assistance, but again, Grand Beginnings has this program, so we would just be helping and supplementing.
Yeah,
their
and that
program
strategic
that
plan, I thought that was the one of the four that you guys were gonna leave to the side, but it sounded like you were almost implementing some things already.
Yeah.
So,
It's gonna be a need, and as you add
Yeah.
childcare spots,
Yeah.
tuition assistance is only gonna go up, so. But that's again, Community Priorities Fund and the other funding mechanisms will definitely be looking at that.
I also see a benefit of having that daycare in our buildings and our workforce housing and helping us fill those units. Because there'll be people that probably would love to live there where they can just walk their kids downstairs and then catch the bus to work or walk to work. And that's a big benefit. You gotta fill it up. You can start paying for itself.
Housing that will help us attract employees as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey,
Okay.
if Fraser ends up paying a little bit more for the first few years, so be it. You know, it's kind of like when you go to an auction and they just do the paddle raise. You know, we're the ones that said we'll drop $1 million. Who else is going to join us? Maybe somebody else will follow.
Sarah, when
Ready?
did the 60-day notice before termination come into play? I mean, it just seems like not a long time frame for us to find a new tenant.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to be.
I found this on the web.
So I worked with Kent's office to put this lease together. That said, I think the 60 days was really added in more as an out for the town, wanting the board to feel more comfortable signing on to a longer lease that, if for whatever reason the leadership at Grandkids was to change, we didn't feel like they were offering quality childcare, whatever it may be, that there would be some options. But I agree, it's not very long. I think we could definitely change that and provide
Yeah,
more
if you want
notice to be required.
Get a tenant in there in 60 days.
Right. And for
If it's been empty I mean, that's a big space, what, 8,000 square feet?
Yeah,
And there's
over
already a
8,000.
ton of commercial real estate that's sitting empty.
Yep.
Well, so keep in mind it's $1,000 lease. I don't know if they're paying monthly for that
Right.
$1,000 or not, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I agree with Sarah. The 60 days is more for us. If something drastic occurred with grandkids and we just said we can't be part of this anymore, then we give them 60 days to move out.
And we
Let's-
find another childcare
Well,
provider to move in. because
yeah, well,
it's
you guys,
how
that
it
would,
works.
that's crazy though. Let's say 6 months, not 60 days.
And do 180 days.
Something, yeah. I mean, and I doubt that we'll even use it, but to make it even the least bit realistic, 60 days is not realistic. If we did say, you're out of there, it's like, oh yeah, great, okay. Oh, we'll leave it as is, so.
Well, if they default
3 months?
and they go through 3 defaults and they don't pay their rent, which
Yeah.
would be hard for them not to do, but
Yeah.
there's a provision in there where we would give them 30 days at that point where they didn't pay, and so then they would be out
Okay.
as quickly as.
Can you
We
bring your
want-
mic a little closer for me? You don't know this
So
about
there's
me,
a
my camera
provision in,
is too.
there's a provision in there, how that all works out. If we wanted to get them out, it's like a 30-day, after some steps, there's a 30-day out. so.
Okay, so that's in.
But I do agree. I think 180 days makes more sense from a lease perspective.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, if we kick them out in 30 days, where are they gonna go? I mean, they're not gonna be able to find a spot for their operations. I think 6
Even
months
6
sounds more
months.
reasonable.
Okay.
3 years.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna wanna kick them out, but
okay, 180 days.
Okay.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I want to make a motion to approve resolution 2020-60802, approving Grandkids Learning Center lease with the change of notice for termination to be 180 days from 60 days.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Um,
Congrats, guys.
Point that I wanted to make that really wasn't financial, but we as a group, oh, several months ago, talked about possibly naming the playground after Eileen Waldo. And I don't know if you were even part of that or even knew that we had that discussion, but it was kind of a concept of "Where's Waldo?" which was her tagline when she ran for the board. So I thought I'd mention that, and if you guys, the mural festival's coming up, and you might find some cute artist that does Where's Waldo? So
Waldo's on Tucker Way. That's a cute idea. All right.
So I will say the next item up is related in part to a discussion around grandkids build out and some funding around that. So we will circle back to that.
Okay. So that is St. Louis Landing financing update and new market tax credit overview. Matt, NSB clerk.
Matt, I don't see you online, but Monica, we've made you a co-host.
Hi, everyone. Can you see me and hear me okay?
You're a little quiet.
I'm a little quiet. Okay.
You can up your volume. And while you're working on that, Monica, just to give a little bit of context, so new market tax credits have been part of the overall kind of financial capital stack for St. Louis Landing for a while now. We wanted to close on the bonds before diving full on into the complexities of both the new market tax credits and the middle income housing tax credits that we talked about at the last board meeting. There also is kind of less risk to investors as they come in kind of later. But I don't think we've actually really given an overview of what the new market tax credits are to the board and how they work. I find them mind-bogglingly complex and convoluted, so we're going to try not to get into too much of the weeds, but though maybe that's just me. But Monica and her group have been lovely to work with, and we invited them to kind of come and try to give an overview of what they look like. And then, as I kind of referenced earlier, this money, as Monica will talk about, is specific to Building E. And so the money has to kind of go into Building E, and there is some opportunity to potentially use those funds towards help with the grandkids build out space. So Monica can walk through that, and then I wanted Matt to kind of share, again, just how this fits into that overall capital stack and what that looks like in terms of potential build out dollars.
Okay, can you all hear me better
Yes.
now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Please let me know if that changes. And thank you, Sarah, for that lovely introduction. I love new market tax credit financing, and I am thrilled to share it with you all today, but it is complex. And Sarah is not wrong to recognize that. I live in this world every day. So I'm going to screen share the presentation, and then I'm going to go into presentation mode. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Fantastic. And you are all now very tiny on my screen. And I really want to make this a conversation so that you all can get what you need out of this presentation. So please do not hesitate to interrupt me. I try to pay attention if those little like raise hand things go up, but I really am not offended if you want to kind of break in. I'll try to pause and make this a dialogue where you all can get the information that you're looking for. So today, real quickly, my goal is to introduce the New Markets Tax Credit Program, often abbreviated NMTC, how new market tax credit financing works, the opportunity that it represents for the Building E and St. Louis Landing, the roles of the sponsor and the financing partners, kind of the key points around the structuring, and then a representative timeline. There is more detail in the appendix, but again, this is meant to be a high-level introduction. I am more than happy to geek out with anybody on the details of this financing structure. I think it is very cool and creative public-private partnership. At another time, if somebody is really interested in learning more. So please feel free to reach out to me. All right, shall we dive in? So Newmarket's tax credit program has been around since 2000. It's administered by a part of the U.S. Treasury's Community Development Financial Institution Fund. It is now a permanent part of the tax code, and it was created to stimulate investment in low-income communities and underserved communities, and does in fact prioritize what they term non-metro communities such as Fraser. A project, it is a census tract based program. So the subsidy is available to projects that are located in qualified severely distressed census tracts. And you can see here in this map in the purple that your project is in fact in the purple census tract, which is the Newmarket tax credit level of severely distressed that draws the opportunity for the project. Newmarket tax credit's been used by many organizations. I've been working in this. SB Clark Companies, maybe I should have introduced us first. We're consultants out of Denver, Colorado. We work nationally in our Newmarket's tax credit practice. I've been working in the firm now for about closer to 15 years. And SB Clark, and the name of the firm is actually my dad, Steve Clark. He's mostly retired, walks the dog, hangs out with my mom. And we have the privilege of working with both Newmarket's tax credits, which is supporting, high impact commercial projects. You can also fund some housing like we're suggesting doing in Building E. And then my twin sister on the other side of our firm works with low income housing tax credits and middle income housing tax credits. And you might have met her, Laura Clark, during the middle income housing tax credit conversations. So that's our firm. These are a number of organizations I've been honored to work with over my career here. And I do think you can find a lot of excitements in Newmarket tax credits. My suggestion is to think of it as a public-private partnership. It's the government's way of bringing private investment into high-impact community development activities. And in this case, Building E, which includes both affordable housing for workforce development as well as, importantly, the daycare. And you do have to have a certain percentage of commercial activity. So the daycare portion or the early childhood education portion is an essential piece. And the idea behind the Newmarket's tax credit program is when there's a market failure, such as it's hard to do development in small rural communities or low income communities, the government offered a tax credit to incentivize private investors, in this case, a group called Capital One Bank, you may know them from your credit card, who is going to bring cash or would bring cash to the St. Louis Landing project, and the project doesn't have to pay them back because Capital One is going to collect their return in the form of a tax credit on their income taxes over a 7-year compliance period. So the private equity comes in and they're paid back through the government subsidy of a tax credit. And you all benefit from that tax credit equity. So the opportunity for Building E is to leverage the costs of the Newmarket tax credit financing. So Newmarket's tax credits, I think of it as a funnel. You kind of leverage the costs through the public-private partnership, and that creates, if you will, the matching grant that is the subsidy of the Newmarket tax credit. And we call it the net benefit because it is the net of all the fees and costs associated with that public-private partnership. The net benefit that's built into the project that you don't have to pay back because the tax credit pays the investor back is approximately $3 million. And that's an approximate number because until we get to closing, there's fees and legal fees and other things that move slightly. But at this point, based on the being able to have attracted the subsidy from two groups, Colorado Growth and Revitalization Fund, which is a part of CHAFA, which is Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. So their Newmarket's tax credit entity is a group called Colorado Growth and Revitalization Fund, and they've promised to bring a portion of subsidy. And then another group, which is Enterprise Community Development. They go by ESIC or ESIC, which stands for Enterprise Social Impact Corporation. But Enterprise, you may have heard of them. They're also very active in the affordable housing space. So two groups that are groups that have been in New Markets tax credit financing for a long time, and they're bringing the right to the subsidy. So we call that New Market tax credit allocation. That's the authority from the US government that these groups won, and they've decided to bring that portion of the subsidy to this project. So you have an opportunity to leverage the building E costs and generate this net benefit. It's important, I think, to call out that it's a complicated financing structure because of the public-private partnership and because there's already a lot of subsidy and support. You all were just talking about the support that you're bringing to the Early Childhood Education Center. We have worked very closely. We've tried to work with Sarah and the legal teams that are involved, and of course, Matt as developer, to really think through how do we structure this in a way so that all subsidies play well in the sandbox together. And one of the ways that does that cleanly is that although Building E would be financed with the New Markets tax credit financing, there would be 2 condo units, if you will, that make up that. And it's easy to have that be confusing because there's all these units of housing. We're not talking about the individual housing units. We're talking about a residential condo, so the 3 floors of the building that are residential focused, and a commercial condo, the ground floor that's going to have the early childhood education component. And those will really be operated, and you'll kind of look through the layer of leases that make the public-private partnership work by having Fraser Housing Authority, of course, operate the residential portion of the project. That's what they're good at. That's what they've been established to help do at St. Louis Landing. And then, of course, the town of Fraser and your grants that you've gotten from DOLA, and to try to make the early childhood education an opportunity, that piece of it really kind of looks through to you. So any questions there on just this concept of 2 parts of one full building? Okay. So now we're going to smush that concept together into the layers of the financing partners that make the public-private partnership work. And as I mentioned, we have to leverage the costs of New Market tax credit financing, the costs of Building E through the structure to generate the benefit. So there's key financing partner roles. So one I've already talked about, it's the investor, the New Markets tax credit investor. The New Markets tax credit investor in this case is Capital One. They're going to bring cash to closing, and then they will collect their return from the US Treasury in the form of a tax credit. The right to the tax credit, the authority that was parsed out in a competitive competition, is coming from the community development entities, another technical term in the program. And in this case, as we've talked about, the community development entities that are bringing the right to the tax credit that Capital One will get to in essence, by bringing their cash in exchange for the tax credit. The right to that tax credit is coming from Colorado Growth and Revitalization Fund and Enterprise. And together, CGRF and Enterprise are allowing you to maximize the tax credit benefit. In order to make this work, New Markets tax credits was originally a low interest loan program. And so smart lawyers back in 2006, 2007 figured out how to stack the program on top of itself and turn it into an equity or a grant program. And so to make that happen, we set up a single purpose real estate leasing entity, and that entity is structured to be in compliance with the New Markets tax credit program. And in this case, that entity is known as a Qualic B, a qualified, active, low-income community business. Down here on the bottom of the screen, it's another technical term in the New Markets tax credit program for an entity eligible to receive New Markets proceeds. This is going to be an entity that is going to be a support corporation, probably a Fraser Housing Authority. We might be able to make it a support corporation of the town. There's some different structuring considerations there. But in general, for you all to think about it, it really is a 501c3 nonprofit real estate leasing company, and it is going to own Building E for the 7-year compliance period and lease it back to Fraser Housing Authority, who is going to sublease it to you to operate their early childhood education. You're actually going to sublease that on to grandkids. And then Fraser Housing Authority is going to operate the housing piece. So there's a layer of leases to make this work, but that allows two really helpful things. It allows the New Markets tax credit program to the compliance for the New Markets program to kind of be locked in place. Over the 25-year history of the New Markets program, there's no situation in which the tax credit has ever had a recapture event, and that's because it's really structured to succeed. You kind of structure the compliance in on itself, and so that one of the pieces to that is this single purpose entity that kind of receives the New Markets benefit and then passes it through to the project. And then, of course, we have the project sponsor, as we would call it in New Markets parlance, and that is going to be Fraser Housing Authority and the town of Fraser. You guys are going to leverage the costs that you've brought together for the St. Louis Landing project. It's going to funnel through the New Market tax credit, public-private partnership, and generate the benefit where you're going to operate it like we talked about on the slide previously.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Question. So you're talking about leases. So this corporation is going to lease it to the Fraser Housing Authority, and they're going to lease it to Fraser. So is there a termination? You said for 7 years. Is there a clause where they could terminate the lease during that 7-year period?
And who is
The corporation.
I know, but who creates the 501c3?
This one.
We do.
No.
So is that the town that creates the 501c3?
It can be. It can be the town, but I think we were thinking it would be technically a support corporation of Fraser Housing Authority.
Okay.
And that just really helps the flow of funds through the public-private partnership.
Okay.
And then as far as lease termination, there is flexibility. It's like any commercial lease, but you are incentivized to keep those leases in place because of the good work that's coming out of the project, and also because it allows the project to stay in compliance. It kind of keeps the financing structure in place. So we would recommend keeping those lease agreements in place. At the end of the 7-year compliance period, through a put call option, the investor exits the structure and they put the ownership of the financing structure to Fraser Housing Authority. And so then Fraser Housing Authority holds all the membership rights of all the parts of the complicated public-private partnership. And so you can kind of collapse the structure. And at that point, the leases are almost always terminated. And then any of your kind of subleases with grandkids or anything would, of course, is kind of outside of that collapsing of the public-private partnership at the end of the 7-year period when the investor is collecting their return.
So, I mean, I'm not sure you answered my question. Is there a risk in this corporation or this entity terminating the lease during that 7-year period?
Well, they're the landlord, so they own it, and you're the tenant. Fraser Housing Authority is the tenant. So I don't know if I'm understanding your question.
They're leasing it to us, right?
Yes.
I
So
think the concern, Monica, is could the town lose the building
Well, lose the lease, and I guess eventually
if there's this other entity that's being entered in with ownership?
So the entity with the ownership is so okay. So there's a layer of leases, and so what we would call the fee interest in the residential condo. So the ownership of the residential condo resides at Fraser Housing Authority, and the fee interest or ownership of the commercial condo or the early childhood education condo resides at Town of Fraser. And then you all, similar to a ground lease, are leasing those units to this special purpose entity. So, and they are, this special purpose entity, the Qualified Active Low Income Community Business, is a support corporation nonprofit whose sole mission is to support Fraser Housing Authority. And you all get to, with the Fraser Housing Authority, get to determine the board members. So for tax purposes, it needs to be different than from the board of Fraser Housing Authority by having at least a majority of board members be independent. But they can be friendly. So I don't know enough about the structure of the Fraser Housing Authority board and the town of Fraser board. But for example, if there was a town of Fraser board member who is not on the Fraser Housing Authority board, that person could be one of the independent board members. And typically the qualified active low income community businesses have 3-person board members. So you would have one that kind of overlaps with Fraser Housing Authority, and then you would have 2 independents, so meaning not currently employed by or not currently on the board of Fraser Housing Authority. And that generates the separation for federal tax purposes. But it's a friendly board that you all have elected who is on that board, and their full mission is to support Fraser Housing Authority. So they're wholly aligned. It is merely a pass-through entity that makes the financing work, and it is leasing the fee interest from the 2 condos, and then it's leasing it right back to Fraser Housing Authority to operate the housing, and right back to town of Fraser to lease it to grandkids. So it is true that we're kind of sandwiching it in a layer of leases, but I think it's a very low risk that those leases would be ended because they're wholly mission aligned and only in place as a pass-through to make the subsidy an opportunity. Does that help?
It helps. I do have a question. We are the Fraser Housing Authority, the Fraser Town Board. So what you're suggesting is we would have actually 3 appointees and no board members on that panel or that committee.
Well, you could have one overlap typically.
One overlap.
So there's a couple
okay.
ways to structure it. And the New Markets Tax Credit Council, who's working with you, we've worked with him for years, and he could help describe the options to help you all get comfortable. One option would be a 3-person board where 1 person could be one of you all sitting here, and then 2 would be independent but identified by you. The other is to do a 5-person board, and in that case, 3 could be one of you all, and 2 would have to be independent. But then you have to write into that structure a requirement that the 2 independent are always present in the case that any actions are taken that have meaningful impact on the financing. So there's just some security measures to make sure the independent board members in that approach are available, and both work and are commonly used. So we definitely want to structure in a way that's going to make you all as comfortable as possible. This is sincerely a tool to make the New Markets tax credit financing structure work.
And there's only restrictions in place on the number of trustees that could be on that committee. And I'm asking because you're on the Fraser Valley Housing Partnership.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure that's not a conflict. We have a new volunteer.
He loves his paycheck.
Just making sure there's no other conflicts. It is just our board.
Yeah, and I think we can definitely try to
There can be
work in a
overlap between the
structure.
Fraser Valley Partnership, whether or not
Well,
it's
who
you.
appoints those other 2 members to the board?
The board does.
Okay. And who owns this 501c3 corporation entities?
So it's a brand new nonprofit corporation, but it is what we would call a support corporation in that its whole mission is to support the activities of Fraser Housing Authority.
But who are they? I mean, who is it?
Like, does the town have to set up that 501c3?
Yes. Yep.
So
that
Town of Fraser establishes the 501c. Okay.
well, it's typically a non-member 501c3 entity that is a support corporation that is wholly controlled by its board that you all would select. We just need to differentiate it from Fraser Housing Authority for federal tax purposes. Right. So that's the reason. And a Qualic B under the New Markets Tax Credit Code cannot be a government. So we have to make it a 501c3. And so Denver
Monica-
Housing Authority, for example, used this structure and they created a support corporation under that is a nonprofit in support of Denver Housing Authority. And that's how they did it. So that's the model we're using here. Sorry, Sarah, go ahead. Or who asked the question?
Well, and Monica, as part of this process of putting together the new market tax credits, I believe we would work with you and the legal counsel to put this 501c3 together, correct?
Absolutely. They do it all the time. They have a lot of experience in that, and they're very good at either using form, articles and bylaws that you all prefer, or they can bring very simplified ones that are used regularly in new markets financing. So yes, absolutely. You'll get a chance to review all of this and pass resolutions before the new markets tax credit financing could close. Those closing resolutions are an essential step in the approval process to make this financing work.
Okay.
So Monica, so this structure is actually sheltering us from risk.
That's
It's
yes.
set up this way.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons most of the nonprofits that we work with use this structure is exactly for that. The single purpose entity is literally structured to remain in compliance for the 7 years, and therefore it gives you the most flexibility in your operations because it's the tenant, if you will, the master tenant, which is really the lease back to yourself. That's the operator. And so it allows you to assure compliance as well as have most flexibility in operations. That's, I think, why it's a popular structure.
Yeah, because the letter from Capital One to Sarah does have clauses in it that basically say that we are at risk as an entity for a recapture or loss if it all breaks down.
That's right. And in the 25-year history, I am unaware of any new markets deal that's ever had a recapture event because of these structures. It's one of the most secure tax credit for structures. I mean, we work with a lot of tax credits, historic tax credits, LIHTC, low-income housing tax credits. There's risks with tax credit programs. This one is extremely low risk because of this structure. That's exactly right.
So, yeah, back to my original question, it's not no risk. There is a slight risk, potentially, something can happen, but it's a low risk.
That's right.
Monica-
So the things,
Right.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say maybe it'd be helpful if you could talk through if we were to be your first recapture, what would that look like?
Absolutely. Let me first say what you would have to do to be that example. So one thing you'd have to do is not pay the new markets. So new markets tax credits funnels into the structure looking and feeling like low interest loans. There's an interest payment that you make kind of at the bottom of that structure, and it actually comes back to you as interest income on the top. It's kind of going in a circle. So one of the things you could do is not pay your lease and therefore not pay the interest, but you were not incentivized to make that mistake because that money comes back to you. So that is one of the few things. The other thing you could do is you could become one of the non-qualified businesses. And there's kind of a list of what we call the quote unquote sin businesses, a massage parlor. You can't sell alcohol for off-premise consumption, a golf course. There's a few, and I can get you that list. And so those are really the things that could trigger new market tax credit recapture. So if you were to, there's a services test, but that's when in this structure, that is they use instead the property, as long as the property is owned by this entity, or in this case, long-term leased and leased back to you, then you don't need that services test. So those are the things you could do to trigger recapture. But let's say for some unforeseen reason in 7 years, we accidentally trigger recapture by bringing one of the sin businesses in as a tenant. In that case, the U.S. Treasury would force Capital One to pay the taxes that it had received the credit for. And then Capital One is going to turn around and ask you to pay them back. So that subsidy that they're bringing to your project, you would have to pay back. And then all the Treasury costs and all the legal fees and any of the tax filing costs that are associated with the years of that tax credit that then are now out of compliance would have to be repaid. So that's the meltdown scenario. Again, no history of that in the New Markets program to date, but that is what would happen, is that Capital One would have to pay the tax credit back to the US government, and they would turn to you to make them whole.
But if we keep the daycare in there for 7 years, it's a non-issue.
Exactly.
Well, and that is also why we have the random list of sin businesses prohibited in grandkids lease. That was
That's right.
specifically put in there for the request of the new market tax credit. We didn't
That's
otherwise
right.
expect them to start tattooing people tomorrow in their classrooms, but
All the kids get numbered.
Monica, one question, and I apologize,
Yep.
it's been a while since you went through that other fancy chart with me. But
Yeah.
do I remember correctly, did we land on that the town of Fraser was going to be leasing to the Qualic B as one of those layers of leases so that the town of Fraser retained ownership per our grant requirements?
That's correct. For the ECEC condo, the ground floor condo, that's correct. And then Fraser
Okay.
Housing Authority similarly retains ownership of the housing portion and then leases it into the structure, and then it's leased back to you. That's correct. So just a few more points here, and I want to make sure we can all keep moving forward. Again, I love this stuff. So if anybody wants to set up another meeting, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to dig into it. Some key points we want you all to be aware of. In this structure, to leverage Building E costs through the structure into the public-private partnership, your money enters in the form of a loan. That's so that Capital One can own the right to the tax credit. And it allows that kind of interest payment to go in a circle and come back to you. So we call that the leverage loan. And so that is going to fund the new markets financing and generate the tax credit opportunity. So you're going to bring about 2/3 of the money to the table, and Capital One's going to bring about 1/3, and it's going to funnel through and it's going to build the project. And that's the purpose for the tax credit opportunity. That leverage loan is going to be made through really the costs you've already spent that have helped build Building E. So Sarah, to your point, some of the grants that you've already received. And then Proposition 123 or 123 equity is kind of rounding out the capital stack. So we're going to leverage those costs through the structure. And then the new markets benefit comes in all upfront, all on the day of closing. So some tax credit programs pay in at milestones of construction. New markets tax credits does not. It pays in all upfront, all on the day of closing, comes in as cash, flows through the public-private partnership, and that cash comes into a disbursement account that you use to complete the building. So New Markets is going to look and feel like low interest loans for the 7-year compliance period, but it is net neutral. You pay that interest, it comes back to you at the top. And at the end of the 7-year compliance period, we're going to put the ownership of that structure and collapse it in the form of debt forgiveness. So we sometimes refer to those as kind of the fake debt, if you will, in the New Market structure. And I know I'm zooming over a lot of ideas that are very complex there.
Monica, can I interject for 1 second?
Yep.
Hi, board, Matt Ginsburg, Mountain Affordable Housing Development. That's no new capital required by the town. All that money is already in the structure. We're just repurposing it as a leveraged loan.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep. Very good point. And
Starting to
very
learn
well
after
said.
3 years what might concern you.
That's exactly correct. So the benefit will create a savings. It's really creating a savings in the building of Building E. And then at the end of the construction period for St. Louis Landing, it's really a savings of bond proceeds that are not going to be used. And that allows more money to come back to the town on their subordinate loan. So there's always this complicated question of when is the net benefit achieved? It is achieved upfront at closing. It is going to get invested into the building of Building E. New Markets wants to feel like it's coming into the project that's having community impact. And then that's going to create a savings to you all that will really be understood at the time that the full project is complete. And there is a savings on the bond proceeds that are not drawn for Building E. Okay, Again, lots here. Happy to dig in more. This is a high level representative timeline. I know there's some different discussions in here. Our goal is to try to take advantage of the new markets financing as soon as possible. It is a very competitive subsidy. So to have Enterprise and Colorado Growth and Revitalization Fund bringing the subsidy to you is a great opportunity. Ideally, we would stay on track to leverage this financing opportunity here yet this calendar year. And the reason for that is some of the costs that we're leveraging to maximize the new markets tax credit benefit are costs that, of course, have been in process and spent in the building that's in process at Building E. And so new markets allows you to leverage costs as long as they're within 24 months of look back from the day of closing. So we do want to close this calendar year in order to have enough costs that are in compliance to be able to leverage the opportunity. So here, of course, and soon, as it sounds like we're attached to your board documents, there are some term sheets and the investor LOI from Capital One. There's also an adjoinder for the legal counsel that we talked about, a gentleman named Kevin Savory at KCD Legal, who would be representing you all in the new markets tax credit financing. He's excellent to work with. We've worked with him for a long time. So there's an adjoinder to allow him to be representing you all as a part of his legal role. And then as those financing partners and that comes together, ideally we would kick off the new markets financing. Kickoff is kind of a technical term for when all the financing parties come together and we start to review the closing documents and the due diligence. That it's usually about 3 months from kickoff to get to financial closing. In that period, as was mentioned, KCD Legal, our firm as your consultants, would work with you to help put together and structure the new entity that would be created to make the financing work. You would identify the board members that you want for that entity. And of course, before we close, you all would have to approve the closing resolutions that authorize that financing. So the kickoff starts the process, but there is formal approval needed to make the financing possible. And that newly formed board also has to pass closing resolutions to allow the financing to close. We anticipate those to be somewhere in October with the financing in November, definitely trying to close before year end, and the sooner the better to maximize that benefit with the costs. So please reach out to me with any questions. There is a more complicated diagram at the end of this presentation. If you have questions on that, or if there's more discussion needed, I'm more than happy to answer questions or schedule another time.
I'm going to say she didn't show you the chart that hurts my brain.
I can.
You explain it very nicely, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does.
There is
So
a method to the madness, but it is complicated. Yes.
Yes. So there are a number of documents, some of which are included here that are going to be coming to the board. So if there are any questions at this time about some of those documents, if you had the opportunity to review them. But I believe, correct me if I misstate this, we are waiting for Prop 123 for CHAFA to kind of give the final sign off. They know this is coming, but they need to approve this before we move forward. And so at that point, we will be bringing those documents for board approval, but wanted to not have to try to explain everything that Monica just explained when those documents are brought forward.
We got kind of a tight timeline. We're waiting on chat on
I think we may be bringing things a little bit before we have sort of final approval, because they give you a pretty firm view about where they are at, and it also helps that the 1.5 of the new markets funding, the CDs that bring the credit, is CHAFA also, and so they should probably, hopefully, if they can hear us, we'll be working behind the scenes to make it move smoothly.
I would be interested in seeing the list of items that would trigger recapture of the tax credits. I mean, I'm just thinking, I have no idea. You mentioned a few, right? But what if there was some nefarious issue, criminal something happen with the daycare, would that trigger a recapture? I mean, would that, you know, what are the risks there in terms of recapturing those tax credits? Does that make sense?
Great question. Just at a high level, I'm more than happy. We have some presentations that are specific to the compliance. The daycare is a tenant, and so their activities really cannot trigger. It's really actions of the qualified active low-income community business entity that are going to trigger the recapture situation. So it is true you can lease to a non-qualified business. I suppose they could ignore the businesses, the non-qualified businesses that are a part of their lease, as Sarah mentioned, that were already put in. But if that happens, then there's a cure period. You would be able to replace them with a qualified tenant, and so that should not trigger recapture if taken care of. There's a lot of cures built in to make sure the solves are worked out, but I'd be more than happy to put together kind of a summary presentation of what triggers recapture.
I think that'd be helpful. How long would we have to get rid of a tenant? Would it be 60 days or 6 months?
Well, we just had to change it to 180 days.
Yeah, we did, but if
Well, we're going to keep this
we
the
have to
daycare
cure it
because they
in
won't
a shorter
recapture
period
it.
of time,
Or we tell them to close down whatever operation they have. It's not allowed.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, typically the new markets compliance period or the new markets compliance certificate is executed biannually. So you would do it twice a year. So you'd have a 6-month period where you're reporting on any of the compliance.
so we got lucky.
Now, how that
playing that
ties
right.
to the actual period that would then trigger recapture, I think you probably have longer for that. But I think that the community development entities who manage the compliance, they have you fill out the compliance certificate on a biannual cadence so that they have time to work with you for any cures in a period that would trigger a concern, which might be annually that they report to the Treasury.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good questions.
Okay. No such thing as free money.
So Matt, do you want to pull up, or I can pull up your sources and uses and just kind of show how this fits into that overall capital
Yep,
sources
I
and
can-
uses stack?
I can pull it up. All right. Just there. That good for everybody? Cool. Good evening, board. Matt Ginsburg, Mountain Affordable Housing Development again. I'm going to walk through the sources and uses page, which we've looked at for 3 years. If you have questions, let me know about any particular line item, but I'm gonna review it holistically with a focus on the effects of the new market tax credit. What's on this page is the final underwriting sources and uses that was approved and in the bond documents and in the Prop 123 documents, et cetera, and on their underwriting materials. So all the final numbers from the bond offering. Over time, the cost of the project, of course, go up because that's the only direction costs really ever go. And a portion of the $5.335 or $5.4 million of bridge loan, the first interim bridge loan that y'all put in, was going to get consumed and probably not fully paid back by the MyTech funding, which is something that's been out here for quite a while, but want to make sure that it's clear because it's relevant to why make the effort to do the new market tax credit. So this is the final source and uses. If you don't do anything about the new market tax credit, and we, come in like right at budget, spend the contingency, etc., then there'll be about $2.9 million of outstanding first interim loan obligation. Remember, at closing, we paid back all of the $5.3 million of second interim loan obligation. So that's back. But a portion of that first interim loan obligation would be outstanding at the end. You would get that back over time through the cash flows of the project. Questions? Okay.
We have money left over.
Yeah, here we go. So if we add to the left-hand side $3 million, which is a net amount, so there's some cost to doing the issuance, and I think we think that 3 million is a fairly conservative amount. I missed the first couple minutes of Monica's presentation, so hopefully she told you the same thing. Then all of the initial $5.4 million will come back, assuming that the budget is observed and performed upon, and you'll have an excess $70,000, or just about $71,000, which I think might be 79. Maybe I did my math wrong on there. That you can use that for, you sort of need to use that if it's coming directly from the new markets tax credit to invest in the Grandkids Learning Center, which isn't specifically for grandkids in this case, it's just the Childhood Education Center, which could be, internal build out, or playground structures, things like that. The various different costs to fully outfit the space as is necessary for a particular childcare operator. So sort of the other end of the spectrum from not doing it is doing it and not increasing the budget at all for the build out. And you end up with all of your first interim loan back and a little bit extra that would be allocated towards some portion of build out costs. As I understand it, Grandkids put forth a budget to y'all of something like $600,000, but I don't quote me on that because I haven't seen it. I could be wrong about that. Questions?
So Matt, on this sheet, on uses, it doesn't mention on this particular sheet, build out at all, or any costs going towards the grandkids.
Correct. I'm just showing you that you have excess. I haven't done anything to the right-hand side. That's why there's a third sheet.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and
I see that.
The build out, I mean, the building cost is in the vertical build out, and that includes a good amount of the internals. Just maybe not the more highly custom stuff like some appliances and other special installations that are specifically for how grandkids would like it set up. It is pretty well set up how grandkids would like it set up. It's not 100% set up how grandkids like it set up. So. Third scenario. Now, Trustee Souls, we add $600,000, which is, like I said, the budget the high level budget number that I heard floated. To the right-hand side, we still bring in the $3 million on the left-hand side. You end up with, almost all of your first interim loan of 5.4 back. You get 4.8, almost $4.9 million back. And that again is assuming that we deliver the project exactly on budget and expend all the contingency, etc. Something like this would be my recommendation if I'm supposed to give a recommendation, but that I think it's up to the board what they want to do. It's up to, I think, a conversation with grandkids about how building out will assist with the goals here. I think, of course, the faster they can get students into the seats, the more adults who work in the town and pay taxes and generate sales tax from sales to visitors can be there. So it's probably an altruistic upward spiral by making sure you can fill out the seats there sooner.
Mhm. Yeah.
So the question is, grandkids, could you fill all the seats if we did this? That fast, getting teachers, everything like that.
They're gonna need to take a few years. Someone needs to use a microphone to answer your question.
Yeah. Do you think you could find teachers?
Do you want to pop up to the microphone? Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
No.
Sorry, Katie.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that we could find teachers since our board of directors raised our bottom line pay about a month ago. We have seen a substantial increase in applicants, and I would expect that that would increase once the stipend program is able to be advertised as well.
And Grandkids' current budget for their build out that they provided here is a bit less than that 600,000. It's looks like it's $418,545. So as Matt was explaining, if we help them either with all of that or the difference between what they believe they have money to put towards it and that amount, the town would potentially have some of its balance of that loan paid back through time over cash flows versus right at closing. The other piece of it though, and again, correct me if I misstate this, Matt, if not all of that contingency is used for the project, then we'd have that going back to the town as well, to pay back the rest of that loan.
Yeah, there's still opportunity to bring it all home. But I don't want to I'm not changing
ready to wipe out the
the
contingency yet.
sources and uses yet. Let's finish a building,
I was gonna ask about the contingency, so that's just kind of a fudge factor, just in case there's cost overruns. What about reserve accounts?
The reserve accounts are specifically for the bonds. One, they're about 3 million and then 2.25, and one is to pay interest during the construction period. And that just gets consumed. Like, right, you raise the money from the bondholders and you write checks back to the bondholders.
So there may be money left over from that too?
No, that like bond cash flows are very specific. And also it's very easy to predict what the interest service will be during that period of time because you know what you raised, you know the amount of time, and you know your revenue is zero. So that will probably be consumed almost to the dollar, and then the other $3 million-ish, I think it's 2.9 something, is a long-term reserve account, and that's part of the security package that the bondholders require. That will, I guess, good point, Louis. That will come back at the end either to amortize bonds or to you all. That'll come back probably after you've already gotten that $529,000 in this case out of the project in cash flows.
Okay, well, that's good. And then the water, sewer, tap fees, does that come to the town, and building permit fees, is that paid directly to the town?
No, to our.
That's probably part of the waived fees on the left.
Yeah, the building permit fees and the way fees were you either, I don't remember if we took cash in and cash out or if we just didn't move the cash around there. That's a wash.
So the waive, that's the same as building permit.
I believe the building permit were waived, if I'm remembering correctly. The water and sewer tap fees and the fire and school fees, we are paying those into the appropriate accounts, but we have grant money that's covering most of that.
Right. As it should be.
And did that get paid to the town? Well, water and sewer tap fees will
Those
get
right
paid to
dis-
the town.
They'll get paid to those enterprise funds, but again, we have grant dollars. We have to pay our match portion, but the rest of that is being paid with grant dollars.
Right, good work. Okay.
So if the direction of the board is that we would like to help cover some of those build out expenses with this new market tax credit money, that is something that would come back to the board ultimately for final approval as we're working through this new market tax credit process. I know for grandkids, the sooner they kind of have information to work with, that helps them plan accordingly so that they can make sure they are set up to do their build out.
Well, we need to make sure we're getting this money first of all, right? There's
Yeah, and I think
a lot of
we feel
kids.
pretty confident that
Okay.
I can let Monica speak to that as well, and her history with this, but we should be able to close on that money. And anything we offered would be contingent on closing on that money.
Yeah.
So can you clarify the order that this would go in? I'm thinking about our bridge loan and if it gets paid back or partially paid back, but I think we told the community that this was not, we were not paying for this, that we would get that money back. So I mean, I'm kind of I'm in support of helping the childhood education, but I think we have to be upfront with our community and pay ourselves back first. And then if there's something left over, we can consider. But these are things we said in public microphones.
Well, and one thing to consider with this $3 billion is we wouldn't be eligible if we weren't supporting this daycare to begin with. So if we were to sacrifice 500,000 now and get paid back over time, it's just something to consider.
I just want to make sure it's clear to our constituents and our community that that our arrangements are we're sticking to our word. I mean, we loaned that money and it was said over and over, and we had people in the audience saying, hey, is this going to be Fraser paying for this? And we said no multiple times. I just think we need to be cognizant of that.
Point.
Alrighty.
Okay, but we don't need to decide that right now.
Yep.
Right.
We
Okay.
just need to.
So we don't, no action.
No, we're not looking for any action. Yeah,
Okay.
this is informational.
Okay, it's a lot of information.
That's a lot of information, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Can we have just a short leg stretch before we start the next one?
We have three.
Not gonna be short.
We have 3 things to go. We have a request for a leg stretch. Let's do 3 minutes.
Yeah, just short. And then y'all could stand up.
Okay. Next up, we get, oh yeah, plenty. Pole yard development community wish list discussion. Ron Jones is here with us.
Do I need to talk fairly closely into this for you to hear me?
Yeah, that's.
That would be helpful. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Ron Jones. I know most of you. I've had conversations with some of you individually, and I'll keep this fairly brief. And I just wanted to give you the courtesy of telling you what we're doing and what we've done. As many of you know, I've been in the Valley 51 years. I did Cooper Creek Square. I did a lot of self-storage. I'm out of all that now, and I'm at a place in my life where I'd like to pay back to the community. And so my family and I, my kids and myself, we looked around and we felt the best way to do this would be to buy the Susan Jones Trust property, the 128 acres, which is part of what is sort of called the pole yard, I guess. It's everything from Sarah, did you want to put a map up or?
Sarah.
Yeah, it's everything from
Yeah.
the ball fields to the elementary school, up to Grandma Miller's and up to Betsy DeVries, my kid's mom's house. It's a very critical parcel that I think needs to be developed properly. And so we didn't do the traditional developer thing of let's get a development plan and let's draw a bunch of pretty pictures and come to the city and say, this is what we want to do. I felt the property became available at a price that was high, but still we could justify, and we just simply bought it. And our goal is to take a substantial portion of this property and put it to use for the things that will help make the Fraser Valley a more sustainable place for people to live. It's not about what kind of IRR I can get off the property. It's what we can do to make things work. And so I want to work with Fraser. I want to work with Winter Park. I want to work with Grand County. I want to work with everybody that's involved to listen to what we need in order so that young families don't say, we can't make it here. We can't afford to live here. We have to leave. Obviously, workforce, you just had a whole huge presentation on workforce housing. That's on the top of the list. With 150 acres, and by the way, we're working with Matt Gerke, who owns Pole Yard. We're united in cause as far as doing the right thing for the community.
Wonderful.
With that amount of land, there's absolutely no reason, if we can find the developers to do it, that we can't build as much workforce housing, single family housing for people who live and work here. There'll be some market things. Yes.
How much does Matt Kirky have?
He has 10 acres. He has 10. We already had 5 and we just bought 128. So it's close to 150 total. And then my family and Graham and Louise Powers own the 43 acres between, let's say, the rodeo grounds and the west side of Fraser. Most of that is wetlands, but not all of it. And when County Road 522 gets built, which we just had meetings with the county this last week, and they're very, very close to having that all put together. And if that happens, I think their intention is to build it relatively soon. So anyway, there isn't a plan to talk about. There's a dream, there's an idea, there's a, hey, we've got the land now and we're not on a short time frame. I didn't borrow a whole bunch of money and now I have to go make money. We paid cash for it and we can hold it and we can protect it. It's not going to be open space. It's an industrial site. I mean, it's not a pretty meadow, but it's a place where the things, childcare, workforce housing, schools, recreation, nonprofits, Riverwalk. There's a lot of things we can do. So the first step that I want to do is hold some public meetings and just listen. Just hear what people in the community say. We'd like to see this. We feel we need this. And we've had people coming out of the woodwork saying, gosh, listen to us. This is what we need. You guys are going to be important because we can't do this without the infrastructure of Fraser. We all know that water is a big issue. We've been talking to your town leaders about solving that. The sooner that we solve the water problem, the sooner we can get going with trying to put land underneath. I want to be very, very clear. We will donate some land. We will make some land affordable, and then we'll have some market land. We'd like to at least recapture what we paid for the land, maybe make a small profit, but that's not our main motivation. The main motivation is to actually have a resort community that works for everybody, not just the people who come here as the second homeowners. And that's a very big, broad picture. That's a huge tent, but you're dealing with somebody who's lived here 51 years. Katie Souls and I played pool. We both came to town the same night in 1975, Halloween night, and we've done it together, you know, all this time. And so
Pretty fun.
that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's
And
wonderful.
I'll answer questions, but there's not a lot more detail. We bannered around some names, and I think for the time being, I just like to refer to it as a community project at the pole yard. That won't be the in name, but that's kind of the,
Mhm.
everybody knows the pole yard, and that's what we're trying to do, is do a community project.
Wonderful. So, yeah, I was thrilled when we found out you bought it. So the old pond, the mill pond
Yes,
that's back there that hardly holds water, that's in your property now.
yes.
And we're always looking for a place for water storage, I believe, and it's a good opportunity for potential recreation and park. I know our kids played there growing up. It was just fabulous. So anyway, that's something for us to kind of tuck away as a possibility for another little park in there, and also to be able to use that water for water storage and water mitigation, because that's kind of big for the town. We need more of that.
We have been discussing those exact concepts with our team and your team.
Okay.
And as I understand it, doing treatment of surface water is very expensive and probably outside of the budget of Fraser.
Yeah.
However, drilling wells and releasing water to augment wells from a storage pond is very efficient in comparison to surface. So that is definitely something we're talking about. One thing that probably isn't that well known in the community, it's not a secret, but those of you who know where I live, I've got about a 7-acre lake that Dwight Miller dug as it was a rock quarry or a gravel pit way back when. And that water's just been sitting there. I don't have any water rights, but I've got the right to have the lake. So I have made an agreement with the Middle Park Water Conservancy District to convert that into a community purpose reservoir. That gives us the possibility of releasing augmentation water. And there's not that many users between Fraser and where I live in Tabernash. I'm not saying that it'll work, but it's certainly something that it makes sense that Fraser would want to cooperate with Middle Park Water Conservancy, because they're certainly here for their whole district. So I think we're going to have to get creative to solve that problem. But as soon as we do, then we can start talking to the various individuals. We can do a land plan. We can start coming to you to talk about annexation. We can start talking to groups who need land. I've had several nonprofits come to me and say, gosh, we'd like to have our own place. You know, we'd like to have land underneath us. I've had a lot of people say, gosh, I really want to stay in the valley, but I don't necessarily want to live in an apartment. You know, workforce housing is not where I want to raise a family. I'd like to have a small piece of land. I mean,
A neighborhood.
a neighborhood.
With homes.
And Andy Miller was talking to me last night about when you and I moved up here, people bought a little piece of land and they built their own house because that's the only way they could afford to do it. You know, one year they'd put up this wall, the next year they put up the other wall. And I hope people could build it sooner than that. But it'd be nice to have small lots that are affordable that people can figure out a way to actually own a house. Now, I can't do all the vertical, but I can help solve the land. And land cost is, as you know, from the project you're doing on the housing, land cost is a huge portion of it. And if we can bring that under control, there's a whole lot of good we can do. And I wish I had more details, but I can't have more details until we collectively work through this and solve some of the issues. So, you know, what we're dealing with is a spirit right now. And I want to invite everybody in the community to participate in this. It's not a secret. It's like, how can we do this together? And I've had an incredibly positive response. I've been talking to a lot of people, everybody from, you know, the ski areas to governments to nonprofits. And I think this is an opportunity for us to really come together and say, what do we need to create a community that's more livable and not just for the second homeowners? So any other questions?
We're very excited.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I hope you guys are.
We are.
that's great.
What
Thank
other
you.
thoughts do you guys have?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ron.
Mhm.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Andy Miller, Planning Commission, and Fraser. You know, I've been doing this land development review game as a town board member, as a journalist, as a naysayer out in the community a long time, 53 years, I believe. And last night, after talking to Ron over dinner last night, I lost a little sleep. For the first time, it wasn't because I was worried about something, it was because I was excited about something. So this is really cool. I think the key words that I got from Ron that I heard again tonight is a community built project, and get the young people involved. And we've got so many people, both of my sons are in their mid-30s and doing good things, but basically pretty convinced the government doesn't do anything to help them out. And here's some property. Here's a possible project we might put together. When we were talking about the pole yard, we came pretty close to buying that, I know. We talked about a make it space. The make it movement is, you don't hear a lot about it lately, but it's out there. A lot of people want to know how to work with their hands. You know, and you think about these tiny lots and small houses, not tiny houses, but houses that could have all the facilities in them. And an owner that wants to build them, but is working by himself, and maybe we don't do one wall at a time. That would could create a blight on the landscape. But maybe we bring in, like Breckenridge does with art vacations, maybe we have make it type vacations. And we have a community shop out there with the facilities and the tools and the things that a person needs to build a house and learn trades. And then tourists, visitors come in for a little Huck Finn vacation. I got the brush, I got the paint, and there's the fence. Let's keep, you know, it's going to be a little more elaborate than that, but that's the spirit of it. So there's just so many great ideas that the young folks in town will come up with, and those amongst us who made those mistakes in the past can hopefully at least offer a path past those. So, Ron, I'm super excited about this, and it's just really nice to hear somebody get up here and say, I want to give back. So,
Indeed.
thanks.
Okay. All right.
Well, I've had a number of conversations with Ron. It's always been fun to kind of dream of what we want to put in this space. Have you guys heard anything else, or have you thought of anything else that hasn't already been brought up?
Was interested. I know I brought up, I mentioned to a gal who's a teacher, you know, about school. And then, but she was really worried about stretching the resources and funding that we have for our school district already. So that was interesting, you know, in terms of a middle school, high school combo. But
I think it needs to be considered.
you know, and we're going to need a new location for Safeway eventually. It is busting at the seams, and we're probably gonna have another 1,000 people as permanent population over the next 10 years, maybe more, and it just can't accommodate it. You think about the number of people. But this particular property, it doesn't really work for because of the railroad. You can only access off of County Road 5, right? Or coming through the town of Fraser. Now across the street, you know what's going on with the rest of that Jones, the Susan Jones Trust property right there off at 8, the corner of 8 and 40?
It's listed
Okay,
and they're trying to sell it.
yeah,
And that's all
okay,
I know. I've heard rumors,
okay,
but that's all I know.
yeah.
But you bring up the transportation issue, and this is something I should have included in my presentation because this is an action item you guys need to be aware of now, and I'm sure you're going to be hearing about it. Scott Ledeen brought up, and then several people after him brought up the need to be able to connect the elementary school to the ball fields so that kids can safely walk from the elementary school to the ball fields.
Yeah.
This can happen very, very soon because County Road 522, now that it looks like it's for sure going to happen, has a bike path, a separated bike path from the roadway, as you know, that goes over the gas line easement, and it goes all the way from County Road 73 to the ball fields. If we can simply connect the elementary school to 522, that connection is here very soon. I mean, it could happen in the next year or two. The other thing that the county said in our meetings, and I don't think I'm saying anything out of school, when 522 was first designed, this was 20 years ago, and the Susan Jones property, there was no hint that any development was going to happen, so there was nothing urban. The road was designed to be, 40, 45 miles an hour moving traffic. When the county understood what our vision is, and, in some of the discussions we've had were the potential of maybe as many as 2,000 SFEs out there and that type of density, that traffic has to slow down now. And the county engineer and the county manager completely understood that. This is going to become an urban corridor. I mean, as urban as we can call anything in Grand County. And that's a good thing because you don't want people zipping by all of the existing homes that you've got on the west side of Fraser, at 45, 50 miles an hour and creating noise and safety issues. So if that road slows down, you all need to really seriously think about how Eisenhower needs to connect to 522 because it's the only way to get from Fraser to the ball fields and the kids to get there without going across the railroad tracks and going back out on Highway 40. So if Eisenhower connects to 522, now you've got a way that the citizens of Fraser can get to the ball fields. And in talking to the school district, as they look 15, 20, 25 years down the road, ultimately there's probably going to be a high school and a middle school in this end of the county. And when that happens, it's either probably going to happen on our property. There's some other ideas that are being floated around, but it's going to be right in that neighborhood. So if we have all of this school thing, we have all of the workforce housing, we got the library, the elementary school, and Old Town Fraser, we've got to have that transportation connection. And it's not just that intersection. We need to be looking right now at a road plan. I mean, how is this all going to tie together?
Yeah.
We don't want to be reacting to it afterwards. So if 522 gets built now, I mean, one of the main purposes of that is so that locals can avoid some of the traffic that gets congested on Highway 40. I mean, we're going to know about it. So you can start in Tabernash and get to Safeway and avoid Highway 40. So I urge you all to coordinate with the county and us to figure out how all of those intersections and how the traffic's going to flow. And that's long before we ever solve the water problem. That's like right now. So thank you for
And
letting me add to that.
thinking about use too, the end that's closest to County Road 5, Field House. Because we don't want it in the meadow and right here in town, but to have it right across from the ball fields. That's the place for a
It was
field house.
interesting because Scott mentioned tonight about a master plan thing, visioning, and
Yep.
I think that's been one of the things that I keep hoping for is that we can work with Denver Water, expand to the north, create this ball fields along so that we can attract tournaments and be in the same business that Steamboat's in
Yeah.
and bring them in to stay at our new hotels. And people will come and spend money in the summer and be here heard.
I'll throw something out that a lot of people were surprised by, and my friend Mike Rapucci noticed this and brought it up. The conservation easement that's on all the land that Peggy's talking about, north of the ball fields, has been given by the Denver Water Board. And the holder of the conservation easement is the Grand County Board of Trustees. It's not a land trust, it's our county. That gives us a huge amount of flexibility in working with that particular conservation easement. There's also an exception written right in the conservation easement for educational purposes. So right now, there's no prohibition on anything that would be, of course, middle school, high school, it would certainly be educational purposes. What we have is a lot of flexibility here as a community to think about how everything from the elementary school to the other side of the ball field should come together from a planning perspective. Now, no promises. We have to work with the Denver Water Board. We all know how easy they are to work with. But, you know, I think if we as a community come up with a plan that really works for the community, as long as we're not taking any of Denver Water's water, I think that there's a chance that we could work with them, and some of these uses we're talking about, like a field house, school, could actually expand in that direction. And it wouldn't take up that whole meadow. I mean, it would probably take up, I don't even want to guess, but not that big. And all the discussions we've been having, everybody points out the same thing. If you're going to have future schools, taking advantage of the existing recreation facility of the ball fields cuts down on the amount of land you need for all of the high school activities. So we've got just an incredible opportunity to get ahead of the game. One of the things that I've been saying for years, and other people are starting to say the same thing, we're the last frontier. All the other ski areas have already done it. They've either did it right or they made their mistakes. And we can learn from what's happened in the other ski areas and hopefully avoid some of the mistakes. We still have the ability to figure out how our community as a whole works. Got a world-class ski area, got all kinds of second homes. We got tons of townhouses and golf course houses and everything else. Now we have to figure out how the Grand County is not going to become Aspen, Basalt, Rifle. You know, we don't want all our employees to have to drive to Kremlin. We want to be able to let people live and work in this community. And that's my goal, is do everything I possibly can to pay back to achieve that. And it's a big project, and we're going to need a lot of help. So it's an open tent. But right now, let's focus on that transportation item, because that's going to happen sooner than later. And the last thing you want to do is build a road and then a year later come back and say, oh, well, we didn't think about this. So we need to think about how this is going to work in the overall planning process. Anything else?
Have they mapped out exactly where the road's going to go at this point?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's,
You did the 404.
Okay.
Adam, use your mic, please. Thank you.
it essentially goes from the loop road that goes through Clark's property and starts at County Road 73 and sort of curves around through our 43 acres and comes out at the intersection of County Road 50 there by the gas meters or gas, whatever you want to call that, substation. And then there's a little jog where it hits County Road 5 to line up with the road that goes next to the ball fields. So the other thing that I'm a strong proponent of, and I think the county is listening, is to get some roundabouts in there, early on, rather than just having stop signs and all that type of stuff, because that slows down traffic. It's a safe way to get around. So I really encourage Fraser to get involved in that planning process, because even though it's a county road, it's really impacting the town of Fraser at least as much as it is the county.
I was just saying that the road layout is determined at this point. Whether there's roundabouts or not, I do not know. Last December, I renewed the 404 permit with the state. I work for the county as a water resource guy. So, yeah, that's moving forward.
Yeah,
Great.
it's
Uh,
really close. I think there's one more step.
Yeah, I don't know if we have final Army Corps yet, but that's in play, and they say it's expected to come through because it's a renewal. This has been going for 20 years and it's just an updated process basically.
And the county staff and the county is really supporting this, and they're doing it right. And, Ed Moyer's been working on this for years. And I think they're circling back after some community input that came in, and I think they're really close to having it done. And we're going to be fairly significant in terms of land acquisition because of this latest property we bought, and we're going to cooperate. We're not going to try to hold it up at all, because the sooner we get that connection, the sooner our kids can get from the school to the ball fields. And to me, that's a huge benefit to our community.
Mhm. So isn't the expense for a roundabout mostly just the land? I mean, you save a lot of money on not having stoplights, which are really expensive.
Yeah, I haven't looked at their budget, so you're going to have to ask the county.
You could ask
where
Clark.
all the costs come.
Yes, Jack?
I know from our standpoint as public record, the processes is they went and got an appraisal and they said, this is what it's worth and this is what we'll give you. And we said, sure, we're not going to fight them, whatever. We're just like everybody else, if the land's needed for a public purpose, that's part of the cost. And they'll buy the right of way, but a lot of the right of way they already have because they've got County Road 50. So, and then I don't know who actually owns the land behind the ball fields, whether they already own that or not. But there is some people in Tabernash who are not very happy about this, but I'm not going to get involved in that.
The Tabernacle.
Any other questions? I'd be happy to talk to any of you individually. I'd love your ideas. We just want to listen. And it's a big open tent. I've had a lot of people in the community that have development experience who've come forward and said, we'd like to get involved in this one way or the other, either from well, I'll just say we've got a lot of help. That's good.
All right.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
All
Oh, here
right.
comes the train. Might have to close the door.
Resolution 2026-0803 on-site distribution extension Excel Public Works Facility. Paul.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. Paul Johnson, Public Works Director for Fraser. The matter before you is the on-site distribution extension agreement with Excel Energy. So very similar to what we did with Mount Parks Electric to get electric run. This is the agreement for Excel to bring gas to the Public Works facility. They would be coming from their line currently in Alderbrook, and they'd be doing a railroad bore, bringing it down the southern property line and then up the western property line to the cemetery. Part of their agreement is they have to run gas all the way across the property. So they've finally got that all worked out to us and sent that over to us. That comes at a cost of $188,617. So the idea is to handle it the same way we did with Mountain Parks, get the infrastructure run, and then once the COPs are issued, we can go back up to 3 years to recoup costs. So basing this on keeping this project moving forward, all the work we've done over the last 2 years is just to keep this moving forward. So wanted to bring that to the board for managers, authorizing the manager to be able to sign that agreement with Excel.
So I'm curious on the bore, is that part of this 188,617?
Yeah, so in the packet where it shows the gas main what's the title of this
I
one?
got the map. I
It's
printed
the-
out the little map thing, which is cool.
So on that one right there, it includes a bore in green, right?
Yep.
So it's talking about they're gonna do a bore and then they're gonna run the, they would bury the rest of it there, but a bore under the railroad at 12 feet deep. And they require their own bore. So they wouldn't be able to use any of the 5 that were existing.
In the same easement though?
They're gonna get their own new easement.
Really?
Apart from Grand Park. Back when those bores were put in the early 2000s, Grand Park approached Excel and Excel says they do their own bores. So they only put 5 in.
Okay.
They put one in right next to the existing 5 that are there that bring water, sewer, raw water, comms. It's another one. I remember what the other one is. Drawing a blank on them. Any other questions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2026-0803 on-site distribution extension for Excel Public Works.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Quick one. All right, resolution 2026-0804 IGA with Grand County Clerk for November 2026 election. Antoinette.
Hello, Board and Trustees again. Antoinette McVeigh, Town Clerk. So I wanted to bring the IGA back with the county to coordinate the election. I have done further research on the election. So the background is the voters approved ballot question 2A, November 5th, 2024, to move the regular municipal election from April to November in even numbered years. 2026 will be the first municipal election to be held in November of this year. At the last meeting, I raised concerns regarding the Grand County clerk and recorder's ability to protect the integrity of the voters and the clerk's ability to understand and follow the Uniform Election Code of 1992 and the Colorado Municipal Election Code of 1965, Title I of the Colorado Revised Statutes. The board discussed my ability to administer the 2026 election as a standalone election and not coordinate with Grand County. In further researching the option, I spoke with the county clerk's office regarding the use of the ballot box at the Fraser Metropolitan Recreation Center. I inquired if it would be possible to simultaneously use the ballot box for the county's administered general election and the Fraser municipal election, each having separate ballots. They told me they spoke with the Secretary of State and it was determined that it was not possible. This would raise security issues with the ballots. One entity receives another entity's ballots. And I concur with that concern. I'll be honest, I don't know that that's totally accurate, the information that they've told me from the Secretary of State, but that's what they've told me. So it leaves Fraser with no ability to use a ballot box outside of the available 24 hours and be outside and be available for people to be able to drop ballots 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
If the board would have a mail ballot election, the only place to drop off a ballot would be here at Town Hall, and people could only do it Monday through Friday during business hours. I would be concerned the limited days and times to return a ballot. The voters could be disenfranchised or confused about what to do with their ballot. The residents of Fraser have used the ballot box at the recreation center for many years, and I know that they're used to dropping ballots there. And I'm concerned that Fraser standalone ballot the ballots could get returned to the recreation center and they potentially don't make their way back to Fraser and maybe don't even get counted. I would hope that wouldn't be the case, but I just don't know. And another option the board could consider would be to have a polling place election. This would require residents to vote in person the day of the election. No ballots would be mailed. The town of Fraser hasn't conducted a polling place election in at least 20 years. A polling place election could also confuse voters why they receive a general election ballot with no Fraser trustees. And a polling place election, I think, could result in lower voter turnout and, again, additional confusion with the voters.
Yeah.
That is what I absolutely want to avoid. So I'm recommending that we go ahead and coordinate the election with Grand County and approve resolution 2026-0804, the IGA regarding the conduct and the administration of the November 3rd, 2026 election. By coordinating the election, the voters would receive one ballot with a clear instruction of where to return it. This could eliminate any confusion for the 2026 November election. Would also recommend that the town of Fraser research installing an exterior ballot box here at Town Hall that could be used in future elections. At this time, there's no way to get one in before the November 2026 election of this year, but I think that we could potentially do that before the 2028 election in 2 years. So the board really has, in my opinion, the two options. We coordinate with the county or we do a polling place election. I think that are really the only two options that the board has.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2026-0804 IGA with Grand County Clerk for the November 26th election.
Second.
Is there further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed?
I appreciate your concern.
Okay.
Yep.
Motion passes. All right. We're on to updates. We've got committee minutes listed. Any updates from staff?
Paul's got a few for us.
So I wanted to give a quick update on the utility billing. The board had requested us to move to monthly billing. So our billing software, Cassell, in communication to Becky today, stated that it'd be possible, but it's possibly a 3-month process for them to make that switch at a cost of $4,000 to $6,000 for that transition. So just wanted to know if the board wanted us to move forward with that. So they probably would not be able to go billing until fourth quarter, maybe first part of the year. Just the way that system is set up, it's not extra work on our end, but the system, I guess, is not set up to do that. So they had a long list of items that would be required that we would need to do. And so it's 20 to 30 hours. They say at $200 an hour. So don't really know what it's going to look like, but we can still pursue moving to monthly. Just there would be a cost involved now where we didn't think there was one before.
That's a one-time cost.
One-time cost.
Okay.
I think we still move forward with.
Yeah. Forward.
Yeah. Monthly
Okay.
billing
I
is-
think we already decided we're gonna we're gonna have monthly billing, right?
Yeah.
So, okay.
We didn't know there was an expense that'd be attached.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, and we'll update communications with the community to let them know that we're moving forward with it, but it will be delayed, so they can expect to see that likely, hopefully beginning of 2027.
So when we went to notify the community about our increase in rate for people that use more than, it might have come through the billing. I didn't look at my usual app that has my billing, but I never got a separate email that just told me about it.
Yeah,
Talked about that.
no, and we apologize for that. Becky was looking into the Gazelle work that she has to do with our updating our contract, so that mailing has not yet gone out. In terms of, because it was supposed to confirm the monthly billing. So she will send something out, and we'll let people know that the monthly billing has been delayed, but that the increased fee structure is in place, based on the drought pricing.
Okay, so people really didn't get a heads up on the increase in fees for our drought pricing.
They were supposed to, but yeah, we
But they
posted
have
it on
not.
social media, but I don't believe it's gone out.
So
through the
should
monthly
we
billing.
charge it if we haven't notified everybody? And it's been cut 20%. I don't know. It just seems like
I think that's
people
a
should
fair
have had
question.
notice.
100%.
Yes.
That, you agree with me?
Well, I mean, that was my objection to the last vote we had on this, because people don't have visibility to their usage. We didn't move to monthly billing. They weren't notified, and now we're in a situation. Again, I didn't think it was ready for prime time, and it's not. So are we backtracking, or, I mean, I don't know. I do feel like that's a little bit of surprise billing for people that don't know, and there's just been a lot of confusion and a lot of misinformation or no information about the change, so.
And right now the website just says upcoming rate change. It doesn't say. It says BOLO for an email, RE watering restrictions, and upcoming rate change.
But you have to go to the website. You don't need,
Into my account.
there's no, if you go to water scope, I think it's already changed to monthly. You can pull up monthly. I mean, I think for August, it's sort of changed, but people haven't been notified, especially about the rate change, I guess, is the other thing.
So has that rate change been built into our program yet that Becky uses for billing? or not? I'm guessing not. And if it hasn't been, I don't think we should charge people for that rate change. If the drought sticks, we'll make it happen next year and make it part of our policy and make sure everybody gets notified and they know that this is how it is when we're in drought conditions.
So Paul, can you update us on the usage? I'd be interested to know when we made the change for watering, how much of an impact that's
I
made
don't have an
on-
update other than what I did last board meeting where there was a 20% reduction in irrigation use. We had a massive decrease once we started the social media campaign. So I would say that I got no notice whatsoever in Kremling. It was social media only, posted on the website, and 2-day a week watering, same as what we've done. So unless I mean, I'm signed up for the alerts, so I get those alerts when they post something, but I was not notified via separate email. And WaterScope's always going to give you monthly. It'll give you daily usage. There's no change in WaterScope. Now that you have WaterScope, you can see your usages. It's not.
I'm not
But
sure
we'll
Crimson's a
continue to
Gulf
pursue
Stream,
getting
but-
monthly billing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next
I mean,
update.
Can we get something out right away? I mean, can we send something out? I mean, it's only a week into August, but if we're not gonna change the rate, and we're gonna continue doubling the rates, you gotta let people know.
And I think we could send something out tomorrow. And again, something was supposed to go out, so I apologize that has not happened. We're kind of in a situation now where it's been on the website and social media and at picnics, so some people have seen it, but I agree that it should be emailed to everybody. Given that we're 5 days in, I would think people have not moved into that second tier yet where that increased
Right. We're
rate
taking
has
days.
happened. I know when I talked with Becky today, we wanted to update the board about the monthly billing status, and then we're going to send out a communication letting people know that while this was discussed, this is going to be implemented in 2027, but that all other drought restrictions were in effect with that billing information.
Yeah, and then spelling out what the tiers are and what the costs are.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to get it out this week or don't charge people. That's kind of my opinion.
Yep.
The drought restrictions, did that get mailed out to everybody? I don't remember
Nothing
getting that
mailed.
either.
No, and again, I think they were waiting to sort out the monthly billing and that communication had gone out, but it hasn't. So it's just been through social media and picnic and on our website.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess
Make it so.
I'm not 100% sure if the
Seems
the
good.
initial drought restrictions were supposed to go out, if that went out or not. But if you have not seen them with your water bills,
I think I got
Yeah.
I didn't get it mailed, but I got it in a text with a link to the drought restriction.
which is a good point. Do you know, Paul? Because I know Lucas has put a lot of effort into contacting the people that are in tier 2 and tier 3 or that are getting close to tier 2 and tier 3. My understanding is notifying them that they are approaching those levels where that drought pricing does take effect.
Yeah, Lucas is calling anybody that's using a lot of water. It doesn't. He's not. As soon as he sees excessive use on a like the next morning, if he gets a flag, he tries to make those phone calls. I know he made a phone call just this week to somebody, and he said it looks like you have a toilet flapper that is leaking constantly. And the property owner said, "Yeah, that toilet is making a lot of noise." But that is a significant amount of water when that toilet runs nonstop for 24 hours a day for weeks at a time. So yes, Lucas makes phone calls to try and make people aware of their water use so that nobody ends up in tier 2 without their knowledge of doing it,
Okay. Thank you.
willingly
Lucas.
going into those tiers.
Thank you, Lucas.
Yeah, he's been super proactive on that individual
Awesome.
basis.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a friend with a rental that he got a call from Lucas, and my friend went and looked, and he's like, sure enough, toilet's leaking. So same deal. Like it's impressive. It's working.
It's working.
So people that are in
Well,
jeopardy are being
Getting
notified.
notified, yeah.
So that's
I mean,
not,
it's really more irrigation than it is.
well, it doesn't
leak.
matter, but it's,
And
they're getting
really,
notified.
Every lot in Grand Park and Rendezvous gets to irrigate 250 square feet. That's our water right.
Well, Rendezvous doesn't irrigate other than drip systems.
Yeah, but
Nobody has.
but that's just the
But,
water right that serves that system is those developments. Every EQR gets 250 square feet of irrigation, and the quantity is not even enough to sustain bluegrass. So, so you're kind of in a real interesting situation where everybody wants bluegrass, but our water right doesn't support it.
Right.
And it's limited to a parking spot, basically. So, you know, it's one of those things where I think, unfortunately, if you're putting in an expensive irrigation system and putting it in your entire yard, it's a poor investment.
Well, so back to where we are with notifying people about the drought restrictions and now the fees increasing and all that. I mean, what do we do with that?
I think we send out an email tomorrow, but it does sound like everybody who is in jeopardy has been notified. So at least, you know,
Nobody's is hanging
So
out
no
to
one-
dry.
right,
Not on notice.
right. I mean, I got a phone call, so or an email.
Okay.
I had to lower my watering. So yeah, it's good. It's fine.
All right. Works for me.
Yes, I have several more.
You can get it out.
All right,
Great.
go for it, Paul.
I'll be looking for my email.
Second one, just to let everybody know that the filter plant at the wastewater treatment plant was turned back on Monday. So they will do, they'll work with Tetra Tech and the supplier to make sure everything's running perfectly. And then we will notify Northern Water that we're back online and start collecting that revenue stream again. Clayton Court is scheduled for paving on August 24th. So with good weather, it's not the end of the project, but if you drive by there, you'll see our nice red sidewalks and our new roll face curb. With the J&L property acquisition, that is going in. So right now we've got some subgrade problems, which was to be expected on Clayton Court on everything we've seen with the water line install, the Strom construction. There's just a lot of organics in there. So working on that, but the August 24th is when paving is scheduled, barring any delays with weather. And then today, actually, I received the 60 to 80% design plans for the exterior bathroom access here at Town Hall. So I'll be reviewing those this week and getting those. So we can at least get that out to bid and hopefully try and get somebody lined up to get that work done. And then lastly, I don't know if anybody noticed the wiring at the bathrooms today, but the security cameras are being installed starting today. So hopefully we'll have cloud-based security cameras out there and then motion sensors inside the all three rooms to make sure that there's nobody in there after hours.
What about during the day?
Well, they're unlocked during the day, so I
Okay.
can't do anything but that.
No, I'm thinking the cameras.
Well, yeah,
Any chance of somebody peeping at the cameras during the day
looking
if
at
they're
the
shining in the bathrooms?
No, there's no cameras.
Oh, okay.
That's illegal.
Kind of went.
cameras are outside.
Just motion detectors inside, Katie.
Motion detectors are inside.
Yeah, I was pointing towards the doors.
Take a
Yeah. Good. And
Fraser.
I do think that we should not invest into that job until we've addressed our budget and see where we're at this year and our sales tax dollars.
Which job?
Because
Oh,
the project
oh,
doing the bathroom access outside.
we did set some funds aside in the budget for that, but we've got to make sure it's enough.
Okay, for this year
Yes,
that we have. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We
that's
didn't.
all my updates.
All right,
That's it?
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Board, any updates? Sarah?
We are looking to make an offer to an assistant town planner. So hopefully at our next board meeting, we can tell you that that individual has accepted. The assistant town manager position is posted. We've got started getting some applications in for that. We have not yet had anybody pick up petitions to run for board member seats. Oh, we did. Oh, good job. All right. We have one person. So board members that are running for their seats, please make sure you pick up your petitions. And if there's anyone you would like to encourage to run, please send them our way.
When's the deadline?
August 24th.
To pick them up?
They're
And
due.
get it back.
That's when I do. Oh, okay,
They're available now.
okay.
Soon.
And I just went back to my emails. There was an email that went out on July 6th about the mandatory water restrictions. So
Oh, good.
that was,
Restrictions, just not a rate increase.
no, the rate, no, the rate.
It was after the first board meeting.
So, July 6th, about the same day our bills, our bill came out.
Okay.
So it did,
Electrocute yourself.
that did
That was
go out.
weird.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. And Louis, I did figure out, or I looked at where that confusion around the HOA watering was coming from that you had brought up at the last board meeting. So I know I emailed you about this, but just for everybody's clarification, it had listed commercial buildings, multifamily properties, and HOAs as having their own watering days. That was meant to be HOA common spaces. So like if there's a grassy area that is maintained by an HOA. So we've cleaned up that language to specify that. So any single family residences should be on odd or even days.
So that's the flyer that went.
Yep. And so that's
Yeah,
one we've
that's a good
updated
one.
just to say HOA common areas.
Right, thank you. Yeah.
Just two quick updates. I'd like to give a shout out to Jeff Lundy, who made these beautiful staff tables for us.
Yeah.
He did them here in the workshop. And then Zimmerman, right?
Christian?
Christian received his Class C water license at the wastewater treatment plant. Awesome. Yeah. Hey.
Nice.
Cool. All right. We need to move into executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-4024E regarding the Joint Facilities Oversight Committee agenda review, including Town Manager Sarah Catanzarite and Public Works Director Paul Johnson.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sonny.
Okay. Sonny.
This will be recorded,
That's her.
so but stop.
Because you
there.
don't get one.
Nope.
Yeah, I kind
It's really weird.
of forgotten.
Touching is.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we approved it,